Good morning, Year 5, and welcome back to Lesson 15 of your Destination Reader sessions. Remember, keywords are in red, questions for you to answer are in blue, and writing time is in green. We're going to continue with strategy number 3, inference. I would like you to remind yourself what inference means. Say your answer out loud now. Well done. Inference means to read between the lines. We're going to take a look at the vocabulary today. Apprehension. Apprehension, which is anxiety or fear that something bad or unpleasant will happen. Rapier. Rapier, which is a thin, light, sharp-pointed sword used for thrusting. Denizen. Denizen. A person, animal, or plant that lives or is found in a particular place. And brigand. Brigand, which is a member of a gang that ambushes and robs people in forests and mountains. So it doesn't sound like somebody very kind. We're going to continue answering 1 mark, 2 mark, and 3 mark questions. I would like you to remind yourself of what answer a 1 mark, 2 mark, and 3 mark question needs. You can make a note of your ideas on your piece of paper or in your home learning book now. Great job. Remember, 1 mark questions will have a short, snappy answer. 2 mark questions will need a point and evidence. And 3 mark questions will need a point, evidence, and an explanation. We're going to continue reading. We're on page 111, and our chapter is called Bruce Bogtrotter and the Cake. I will read, and you will follow along. We will stop at points to give you time to make inferences. Let's begin. How can she get away with it? Lavender said to Matilda. Surely the children go home and tell their mothers and fathers. I know my father would raise a terrific stink if I told him the headmistress had grabbed me by the hair and slung me over the playground fence. No, he wouldn't, Matilda said, and I'll tell you why. He simply wouldn't believe you. Of course he would. He wouldn't, Matilda said. And the reason is obvious. Your story would sound too ridiculous to be believed. And that is the Trunchbull's great secret. What is? Lavender asked. Matilda said, never do anything by halves if you want to get away with it. Be outrageous. Go the whole hog. Make sure everything you do is so completely crazy it's unbelievable. No parent is going to believe this pigtail story, not in a million years. Mine wouldn't. They'd call me a liar. In that case, Lavender said, Amanda's mother isn't going to cut off her pigtails. No, she isn't, Matilda said. Amanda will do it herself. You see, if she doesn't... Do you think she's mad? Lavender asked. Who? The Trunchbull. No, I don't think she's mad, Matilda said, but she's very dangerous. Being in this school is like being in a cage with a cobra. You have to be very fast on your feet. We're going to stop so I can ask a question. Why do you think Matilda compares being in the school to being in a cage with a cobra? For 2 marks. Say your answer out loud, and then make a note of your ideas on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. Press play once you are ready to continue. Let's take a look at my answer. I think that Matilda compares being at school to being in a cage with a cobra because of how dangerous Miss Trunchbull is. We know that cobras can also be dangerous and vicious animals. I've made my point, why I think that she compares being in the school to being in a cage with a cobra, and I've used evidence, quotation marks, to back up my point. Well done if you've done the same. They got another example of how dangerous the headmistress could be on the very next day. During lunch, an announcement was made that the whole school should go into the assembly hall and be seated as soon as the meal was over. When all the 250 or so boys and girls were settled down in assembly, the Trunchbull marched onto the platform. None of the other teachers came in with her. She was carrying a riding crop in her hand. She stood up there on centre stage in her green breeches with legs apart and riding crop in hand, glaring at the sea of upturned faces before her. "What's going to happen?" Lavender whispered. "I don't know," Matilda whispered back. The whole school waited for what was coming next. "Bruce Bogtrotter," the Trunchbull barked suddenly. "Where is Bruce Bogtrotter?" A hand shot up among the seated children. "Come up here," the Trunchbull shouted, "and look smart about it." An 11-year-old boy, who was decidedly large and round, stood up and waddled briskly forward. He climbed up onto the platform. "Stand over there," the Trunchbull ordered, pointing. The boy stood to one side. He looked nervous. He knew very well he wasn't up there to be presented with a prize. He was watching the headmistress with an exceedingly wary eye, and he kept edging farther and farther away from her with little shuffles of his feet, rather as a rat might edge away from a terrier that is watching it from across the room. His plump, flabby face had turned grey with fearful apprehension. Remind yourself of that word apprehension. That was our key vocabulary word. His stockings hung about his ankles. "This clot," boomed the headmistress, pointing the riding crop at him like a rapier. "This blackhead, this foul carbuncle, this poisonous pustule that you see before you is none other than a disgusting criminal, a denizen of the underworld, a member of the mafia." "Who, me?" Bruce Bogtrotter said, looking genuinely puzzled. "A thief," Miss Trunchbull screamed. "A crook, a pirate, a brigand, a rustler." "Steady on," the boy said. "I mean, dash it all, headmistress." "Do you deny it, you miserable little gumboil? Do you plead not guilty?" "I don't know what you're talking about," the boy said, more puzzled than ever. "I'll tell you what I'm talking about, you suppurating little blister," the Trunchbull shouted. "Yesterday morning, during break, you sneaked like a serpent into the kitchen and stole a slice of my private chocolate cake from my tea tray. That tray had just been prepared for me personally by the cook. It was my morning snack, and as for the cake, it was my own private stock. That was not boy's cake. You don't think for 1 minute I'm going to eat the filth I give to you? The cake was made from real butter and real cream. And he, that robber bandit, that safecracker, that highwayman standing over there with his socks around his ankles, stole it and ate it." "I never did," the boy exclaimed, turning from grey to white. "Don't lie to me, Bogtrotter," barked the Trunchbull. "The cook saw you. What's more, she saw you eating it." The Trunchbull paused to wipe a fleck of froth from her lips. Let's stop and answer a question. Do you think that Bruce stole the slice of Miss Trunchbull's chocolate cake? For 3 marks. Say your answer out loud and then make a note of your ideas on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. Press play once you are ready to continue. I think that Bruce Bogtrotter did steal the slice of cake from Miss Trunchbull because the author describes him turning from grey to white. This suggests that the boy is shocked and scared that he has been caught by Miss Trunchbull. The author may have instead described his expressions differently if he was innocent. So if he was innocent, the author may have actually described his facial expressions rather than actually the colour that his skin is turning. Well done if you have a similar answer, or if you use the point, evidence, and explanation to answer the question. Let's continue. When she spoke again, her voice was suddenly softer, quieter, more friendly, and she leaned towards the boy, smiling. You like my special chocolate cake, don't you, Bog-Trotter? It's rich and delicious, isn't it, Bog-Trotter? Very good, the boy mumbled. The words were out before he could stop himself. You're right, the Trunchbull said. It is very good. Therefore, I think you should congratulate the cook. When a gentleman has had a particularly good meal, Bog-Trotter, he always sends his compliments to the chef. You didn't know that, did you, Bog-Trotter? But those who inhabit the criminal underworld are not noted for their good manners. The boy remained silent. Cook! The Trunchbull shouted, turning her head towards the door. Come here, cook. Bog-Trotter wishes to tell you how good your chocolate cake is. The cook, a tall, shriveled female who looked as though all of her body juices had been dried out of her long ago in a hot oven, walked onto the platform wearing a dirty white apron. Her entrance had clearly been arranged beforehand by the head mistress. Now then, Bog-Trotter, the Trunchbull boomed. Tell cook what you think of her chocolate cake. Very good, the boy mumbled. You could see he was now beginning to wonder what all this was leading up to. The only thing he knew for certain was that the law forbade the Trunchbull to hit him with the riding crop that she kept smacking against her thigh. That was some comfort, but not much, because the Trunchbull was totally unpredictable. One never knew what she was going to do next. There you are, cook, the Trunchbull cried. Bog-Trotter likes your cake. He adores your cake. Do you have any more of your cake you could give him? I do indeed, the cook said. She seemed to have learnt her lines by heart. We're going to stop and ask a question. What do you think Bruce Bogtrotter's punishment might be? We can tell that Miss Trunchbull is up to something and she's about to punish Bruce. Say your answer out loud and then make a note of your ideas on your piece of paper or in your home learning book. Press play once you are ready to continue. Brilliant. I think that Miss Trunchbull will smother Bruce in cake before locking him away in the chokey, because she asked the cook, do you have any more of your cake you could give him? We also know that the chokey is how most children are punished by Miss Trunchbull. So I've put two and two together to think of what punishment I think that Miss Trunchbull is going to give Bruce. I would love for you to email some of your answers to the class mailbox. Then go and get it and bring a knife to cut it with. The cook disappeared. Almost at once, she was back again, staggering under the weight of an enormous round chocolate cake on a china platter. The cake was fully 18 inches in diameter, and it was covered with dark brown chocolate icing. Put it on the table, the Trunchbull said. There was a small table centre stage with a chair behind it. The cook placed the cake carefully on the table. Sit down, Bog-Trotter, the Trunchbull said. Sit there. The boy moved cautiously to the table and sat down. He stared at the gigantic cake. There you are, Bog-Trotter, the Trunchbull said, and once again her voice became soft, persuasive, even gentle. It's all for you, every bit of it. As you enjoyed that slice you had yesterday so very much, I ordered cook to bake you an extra large one, all for yourself. Well, thank you, the boy said, totally bemused. Thank cook, not me, the Trunchbull said. Thank you, cook, the boy said. The cook stood there like a shriveled bootlace, tight-lipped, implacable, disapproving. She looked as though her mouth was full of lemon juice. Come on then, the Trunchbull said. Why don't you cut yourself a nice thick slice and try it? What, now? The boy said, cautious. He knew there was a catch in this somewhere, but he wasn't sure where. Can't I take it home instead? He asked. That would be impolite, the Trunchbull said, with a crafty grin. You must show Cookie, here, how grateful you are for the trouble she's taken. The boy didn't move. Go on, get on with it, the Trunchbull said. Cut a slice and taste it. We haven't got all day. We're going to stop there. I'm really excited to read what happens to Bruce Bogtrotter. Next week, we're going to finish this chapter, and then we're going to carry on making inferences. On your piece of paper or in your home learning book, predict what you think Bruce Bogtrotter will do.